Hi, this is Misha, and in our year and some change ongoing revisiting of the Walthers, we've started with the PP PPK, then the P38, both pre-war, wartime, and then post-war, getting into the P1. Now it's time to look at the P5, and I've got the two main examples here. This is the full-sized P5, chambered for 9x19 parabellum. And this is the P5 compact, also chambered for 9mm parabellum. So what do we have here? The P5 was introduced in 1978 by Walther, after it was clear that the PP Super, which we also have a video on, introduced in 72-73, was not the future. That was in 9x18 police. When it was clear that West German police were going to go with the 9x19 cartridge, Walther went back to work. And the first thing they did is this critter here. This is the P4, which you saw in our P1 video and the PP Super video. This was kind of their stopgap measure they introduced in 74. They took a P1, shortened the barrel by ½ inch, gave it the decocker safety from the PP Super. They bobbed the hammer. They gave it the firing pin safety, so that the firing pin's only in alignment. Yep. They also got rid of the kind of two-piece style top cover, going to the solid style, giving it adjustable rear sights. So kind of an interim step police gun, but we still have a more traditional P38 type grip with 8-shot mag, heel, mag release, all that good stuff. Again, this was pretty much an interim solution. They would make 75, 8,500 of these, some going to various German police, but that was really just something to have on the market. Well, in the late 70s, West German police were having trials to basically approve a new gun. And the way things were working in Germany, West Germany at the time, they would have an approved list of service guns, and then individual police departments, individual areas could kind of select which gun they wanted to purchase. Walther's entry was the P5 here. Sig Sauer's entry was the P225, known as the P6, and HK's entry was the P7, the squeeze cocker. So what did Walther really make with the P5? Well, this is kind of the ultimate evolution of the P38 P1 design. It may not look the same, but actually it really is. This weighs 28 ounces, which is ironically the same as the PP Super. The difference is this has an alloy frame, whereas the PP Super was steel. It has about a 3.5 inch barrel. It actually ejects from the left side, kind of left and up. And we're at about 7.1 inches long. So it weighs the same and is only just a 1/4 inch longer than the PP Super. And we're 9x19. It's a locked breech gun using the P38 system, with the following wedge. We have this interesting control here. It's a slide release, which you'd expect. Then this also doubles as your decocker safety. There's no other real safety It's not a manual safety, nothing on the slide. Now this uses the firing pin safety, first seen in the PP Super and later the P4 and the P38K for that matter. So it was a very safe gun for police use. It is double single action, of course. It's got a mostly bobbed hammer, wraparound grip, kind of an update to the P38 style. It uses a heel mag release, but it's recessed. Still uses the same P38 8-round mags, but it has a little notch cut in the base to work with the new release. So you can take a regular P38 mag and put a slot in it. Also, these mags will work in guns based on the P38, like the P4 here. As you see, it has a more conventional closed top slide, unlike the P38. We have adjustable rear sights. Pretty compact and streamlined little gun for police use. And these were pretty successful for Walther. They would sell about 40,000 to the West German police and to Dutch police. The Dutch would actually adopt these. And many would remain in service until the early 21st century. Has a very modern look to it even today. And again, it's an alloy gun. On the other hand, it is still only an 8-shot magazine, single stack, instead of what would be later part of the Wonder 9 series. And these were, they were priced okay for police. They were a little cheaper than the HK, but they were a little more expensive than the P6. Neat guns. I bought this one when they were surplused out around 2004, give or take. They were pretty pricey even when they were surplused out, around $500. But when these were sold commercially in the U.S. in the 80s, it brought over by Interarms, they were pretty pricey. Not as much as the famous P88, but still quite pricey. Well, the P5 would pretty much remain the standard. But then in 1987, they would introduce the P5 Compact, or P5C here. So nearly a full decade later. Now, interestingly, they would introduce this right before the P88 would come onto the market. Now, on paper, this is not a much smaller gun. It has a 3.1-inch barrel, so not even a half-inch shorter. Likewise, we're at 6.7 inches tip to tip, so not quite half an inch shorter. And we're at 26 ounces, so only a couple ounces lighter. Pretty much mechanically, this is the same gun. We have the same multi-control, double single action. But what Walther did, they went through and they pretty much made this a very curvy gun. If you look at the front, I'm going to point this at you, you can see the barrel is very flush with the slide compared to this, where it sticks out more. The slide itself is more rounded, more of a snag-free design. The hammer is definitely a more bobbed hammer. I mean, this one's a pretty compact hammer, but it does stick out more. Now, on the other hand, this is an easier to grasp hammer. There's not much purchase area on this one, but I don't think they expected you to really use it. The grip was actually slimmed up a lot on the bottom here. Boop. Even though the magwell itself is the same. It's more of an angular thing. You see the trigger guard here. Comparing it to this trigger guard, it's quite similar. They're both quite rounded. It's got a little bit of a patterning here to put your offhand on. And then we get to the biggest difference. The mag release. We went from the heel style to a Browning style button. Now what they did, they're still using the same 8-shot mag. In fact, you can see the notch in the bottom, so this mag will still work in a regular P5 or even P38, P1. But then they put a secondary notch up here to work with the, let me flip it, there it is. Flip it over for the Browning style mag catch. Now they did this to have it a little bit more modern style. Also to slim up this bottom area quite a bit so it could not be accidentally hit. So while on paper this gun isn't much smaller or lighter, it is quite a bit more snag free. Now the biggest user of the P5 compact was actually the British military. They would adopt this as the L102A1, and they would buy about 3,000, many of which were issued to officers serving in the North Ireland area, the Troubles and all of that. So there was some minor military adoption, but kind of like with the P4 more than a decade before, the P5 compact was a bit of a stopgap measure and was never put into huge production by Walther. I'm not aware of many P5 compacts that were sold as surplus on the market, but some of these, like this one here, were sold as new guns brought over by Interarms in the 80s and into the early 90s. And they're pretty uncommon today. So I was really happy when I found this one. I picked this one up probably 9-10 years ago. It was actually a local find, at least relatively so, still within the state of Arkansas. So kind of a neat to find one, and it was in really nice shape with the box and everything. It's hard to really get a beat on the price of these because you just don't see them that frequently. It's one of those guns that I wasn't real excited about getting before I held one, but it is a really good feeling gun. Size-wise, I like the mag release. It's just a really nice, smooth, very typical Walther quality gun. And it's really the last of Walther's P38, P1 inspired guns. Kind of last of that traditional system with the falling wedge under the barrel that dates all the way back before World War II. So much as the PP Super is the last of its lineage, the P5 and P5 compact are kind of the last of their own lineage. So I thought we would just revisit these. Why not? You can still find P5 compacts and P5s, but they're getting harder and harder to do so. Of course, there's more of this full size in the US because of the surplus guns. But they're starting to dry up, and again, you can find some of the commercial ones. And these disassemble the same as the P38. Just flip that forward and it comes off, and nothing real different or special there, guys. This multi-control is interesting, and actually a version of it would appear later on the P88. Well, if you have any questions or comments, we welcome them below. If you could, like, share, subscribe. And if you'd like to help support the channel, check out the link to our Patreon page. And if you haven't, check out some of our other Walther videos. We like to ramble about them around here. They're just really neat and sometimes underappreciated guns. This is Misha, and we will catch you next time.